I spent half a year grinding with my construction crew, building the most luxurious lakeside eco-resort in the entire county for my childhood best friend. Now that the project is finally delivered, my mother suddenly fell critically ill and urgently needs $200,000 for life-saving surgery. Japong, please, I beg you, pay me the money you owe for the project. My mom is waiting for this money to save her life. I knelt at the entrance of his villa on the imported marble floors, begging him to settle the payment, but he just wrapped his arm around his new, wealthy girlfriend and poured a glass of expensive red wine right over my hard hat. A dirt poor laborer like you will always be a peasant. Look at this corner. The paint job is off by 0.5 millimeter. I didn't even make you pay for the damage, which is already me showing mercy for old time's sake. And you still have the nerve to ask for money? What he doesn't know is that as the chief engineer of this entire eco-resort's water system, when I was laying down the main underground pipe network, I left a master control valve that perfectly complies with engineering standards. Brother Chen, are we really just going to let this go? Since you're ruthless enough to steal my mom's life-saving money, then at tomorrow's grand investment gala for the resort, I'll use the sludge from these 30 acres of fish ponds to give you a spectacular mudslide baptism. In the early hours of the morning, your mother had a sudden, massive heart attack. She needs emergency bypass surgery immediately. Hurry up and pay at the billing counter. You need to prepare at least $150,000 in the hallway of the county hospital's emergency room. The lead doctor's words felt like a heavy hammer, smashing violently against my chest. Doctor, please perform the surgery on my mom first. I promise I'll have the money ready within 30 minutes. I desperately grabbed the doctor's sleeve. My fingernails still caked with leftover plaster from the construction site. The hospital has strict rules. We're already using advanced medication to buy her some time. But you need to move fast. Her life is hanging by a thread, and every single second counts. The doctor brushed off my hands and rushed back into the emergency room. Shaking, I pulled my cracked screen phone out of the plaster-stained pocket of my work pants and pulled up the number I knew by heart. Zhao Peng. Zhao Peng and I were childhood best friends who grew up like real brothers. But half a year ago, he had no idea. Somehow, he managed to secure a massive chunk of funding and decided to build the most luxurious eco-manor in the entire county, right here in our town. The Water Cloud Manor. Just to support my brother, I turned down a massive construction project in the city. Just to help him build this magnificent, lavish estate from the ground up. Yesterday, the project passed its final inspection and was officially handed over. But the 200,000 yuan final payment he promised me? Still nowhere to be seen. That money was meant to pay my workers, the brothers who sweat alongside me, and to buy the life-saving medicine my sick mother desperately needs. It's our hard-earned blood money. While I was pacing back and forth, completely out of my mind with worry, my coker, that Jew, sent me a text.
光得瞧，赵鹏定的给你的市级府的密定，还到。
He's hosting some fancy pre-opening VIP cocktail party right inside the Water Cloud Manor. The parking lot is packed with nothing but luxury cars. I heard even Sun Daohu, the richest man in town, is there. The whole setup is incredibly massive.
Hearing this,
My brain went completely numb, my ears ringing. He has the money to throw a ridiculously lavish and wasteful party, but he doesn't have the money to pay my hard-earned construction fees? That money is literally the life-saving fund my mom is waiting for on the operating table. With my eyes bloodshot from pure rage, I borrowed Daju's beat-up old van, slammed my foot all the way down on the gas pedal, and sped like a madman toward the Water Cloud Eco Manor 10 kilometers away. Half an hour later, I slammed open the heavy brass doors of the Water Cloud Manor. Doors that cost a whopping 50,000 yuan to build. The scene inside burned my eyes. A massive crystal chandelier hung over what used to be a humble fish pond, lighting up the space like broad daylight. The newly built floating boardwalk was draped in spotless white carpets. The long tables were loaded with massive Australian lobsters, premium black caviar, and plates of expensive imported strawberries. Business owners and investors in custom-tailored suits were clinking glasses and laughing. And there was Zhao Peng, wearing an incredibly expensive pure white suit with a fresh flower pinned to his lapel, looking smug and on top of the world. He raised a glass of red wine, with his horn wrapped around Sunshin, the daughter of the town's richest man, boasting loudly to the crowd. My esteemed guests! Our Watercloud Manor is not only built on the finest, most blessed land in the entire county, but it's also a model of new rural infrastructure, a true benchmark of development. We officially open tomorrow, and I'm counting on all of you to invest heavily in us. Here. Ignoring the grease and mud splattered all over me, I stormed into the banquet hall, staring dead at the man standing right under the spotlight. The frowning music suddenly screeched to a halt. All the guests in their fancy suits and dresses stared at me, like I was some kind of freak. Who is this beggar? How did he even get in? Honey, what is wrong with your security? Why did they let just anyone in? He stinks so bad. He reekings of sewage and mud. The smile on Xiaopeng's face instantly froze, and a flash of pure panic shot through his eyes. But he quickly composed himself. Terrified of losing face in front of the billionaire Changwon and a room full of investors, he instantly slapped on a smug, arrogant look. Lin Chen, have you lost your mind? Who gave you permission to come in here and make a scene? Can't you see I'm hosting VIP guests? With bloodshot eyes, I marched right up to him. I don't have time for your bullshit. My mother is lying in the emergency room right now, waiting for surgery money. Give me my final project payment of 200,000 right now. Lansha, is there a screw loose in your head? What 200,000? You actually have the nerve to ask me for money? Look at the garbage job you and your crew did. The paint in the corner of this hall is off by 0.5 millimeter. It completely ruined the feng shui of the entire estate. The fact that I didn't sue you for mental distress is already me being generous because of our past friendship. And yet you dare to come here and throw a tantrum? I clenched my fists so hard, my nails dug deep into my palms. The paint in that corner was only like that because Xiaopeng cut corners to pocket the budget, buying cheap, garbage primer. My crew had to pull 3 straight all-nighters just to patch it up and make it look decent. And now, he's using that as an excuse to stiff me. That is my hard-earned money. That is the money my mom needs to stay alive on that operating table. You're using my mother's life to play the big shot here. Do you have any humanity left in you? If I don't get my money today, I will ruin this damn party of yours. I lunged forward to grab him by the collar. But before I could even touch him, 4 or 5 burly bodyguards in black suits rushed me in an instant, pinning my arms behind my back and slamming me flat onto the carpet. Xiaopeng stared down at me with utter contempt, letting out a cold sneer. He picked up a glass of red wine from the table and splashed it right onto my dust-covered hard hat and my face without a second thought. The crimson liquid dripped down my forehead and into my eyes, shooting like hell. If you're here to beg, go to the back door. Throw him out of here. Tomorrow is the grand investment gala for Cloud Pavilion. If you dare show your face and ruin my luck again, I'll break your legs. The bodyguards dragged me out through the massive brass doors and threw me onto the muddy road outside. The night wind cut like a knife. As I lay there in the cold mud, I pulled out my phone and saw a text from the attending doctor. The patient's condition has taken a turn for the worse. Your account balance is depleted. Please pay the fees immediately. Otherwise, we cannot prep the operating room. Right at that moment, a notification popped up on social media. It was a post Xiaopeng had just shared. The photo showed him wrapping his arm around a wealthy heiress, the brilliantly lit Cloud Pavilion estate glowing behind them. The caption read, "On a big day like this, there's always some blind, pathetic loser trying to make a scene. Tomorrow is our $10 million investment gala. Time to show those peasants who spend their whole lives laying bricks what real business vision looks like." I stared intensely at the words on the screen, and the very last shred of our brotherhood was completely ground to dust. You want vision, do you?
Want to talk about feng shui, huh?
I struggled to push myself up from the mud, wiping my face as I glared coldly at the luxurious estate glowing in the distance. Its underground drainage system, every single main sewage pipe, every septic tank and drain, was designed and laid down by my own 2 hands. Since you chose to throw our friendship in the trash, don't blame me for teaching you how a real worker gets even. Late at night, inside a cramped shack in the suburban village, the drafty window rattled loudly in the howling night wind. I pushed open the rusty iron door and stepped inside, covered in mud and dried red wine stains. Under the dim glow of the incandescent light, More than a dozen brothers who had gone through thick and thin with me, who had sweated as bricklayers on the construction site for 6 months. And the electricians. Not a single one of them was asleep. Seeing me in such a miserable state, Daju, usually the most honest and gentle of us all, bolted to his feet. His eyes instantly turned bloodshot. Brother Chen, the blood on your head. Xiaopeng beat you? He refuses to pay us and actually has the nerve to lay his hands on you? Old Zhang, a plumber in his 50s, shakingly pulled a small cloth bundle out from his inner pocket, wrapped in layer after layer of plastic. He unwrapped it, revealing a messy pile of crumpled $10 bills, $20 bills, and even some loose coins. The boys just turned all their pockets inside out. They even pitched in their food money for tomorrow. But we only managed to scrape together $36,000. That is still so far from the $150,000 needed for the surgery. Didn't Xiaopeng say he was hosting a banquet tonight? How could he not even pay us the remaining balance? I looked at the pile of crumpled cash, still warm and smelling of sweat. Then I thought back to just half an hour ago. To those plates of luscious, expensive strawberries at the Cloudwater Manor, and that glass of premium red wine Xiaopeng had thrown right in my face. My fingernails dug so deep into my palms that they nearly pierced the skin. I took a deep, heavy breath, gritting my teeth. I growled. He has pushed us too damn far. Hearing this, Daju flew into a blind rage. He grabbed a heavy 20-pound sledgehammer from the corner and roared, "He uses our brother's mother's life-saving money to play the big shot boss. And he had the audacity to throw wine in your face? Damn it. Brothers, grab your gear. We are going to Cloudwater Manor right now and tearing that place to pieces. Let's see how he opens for business tomorrow." Yeah, trash it. Tear it down. Tear it all down. More than a dozen men grabbed steel pipes and shovels. Fueled by pure rage, they prepared to storm out of the room. I took a sudden, violent step forward and blocked the metal door with my body, shouting, "Everyone, freeze!" You trash his manor. Then what, Dashu? Your wife's giving birth next month. Old Zhang, your grandson is still waiting on your money for his tuition. You really want to throw your life away in prison over a piece of trash like Xiaopeng and leave your whole family to starve? My mom is still lying in that hospital bed, waiting for the money to save her life. If I end up behind bars, who's going to lay her to rest? The construction shed fell dead silent. The only sound left was the heavy, ragged breathing of the crew. The heavy iron sledgehammer slipped from Daju's hand, clattering onto the floor. He crouched down, burying his face in his hands. A 6-foot-tall, rugged man, choking back tears. But Brother Chen, that's your mom's life we're talking about. Are poor working stiffs like us just born to be stepped on by people like him? I can't just take this lying down. Take it lying down? I'm Lingchen. Those words aren't in my vocabulary. I walked over to the grease-stained folding table, swiffed all the clutter off with one arm, and pulled a thick, carefully preserved roll of blueprints from my tool bag. With a sharp snap, I unrolled them under the dim work light. It was the underground pipe network blueprint for the entire 5-acre eco manor. The rage in my bloodshot eyes instantly vanished, replaced by cold, calculated professionalism. I pointed to the maze of red and blue lines on the blueprint. Xiaopeng loves showing off, doesn't he? And he's desperate to lock in Sun Dahu's multi-million-dollar investment tomorrow, right? We're builders. We don't need lead pipes or fists. We'll use purely professional, fully compliant engineering to show him what happens when you cross the people who build your world. The crew gathered around the table. Old Zhang pushed up his reading glasses and muttered as he stared at the layout. We laid these water pipes ourselves, strictly up to code. There isn't a single leak in the whole system. How are we supposed to use this against him? I let out a cold laugh. The whole selling point of this eco manor of his is the 5 acres of high-density koi ponds. To keep that water circulating and crystal clear, I designed a state-of-the-art microfiltration and sedimentation system. But do you guys remember last month, when Xiaopeng wanted to shave 80,000 yuan off the budget? Old John slapped his thigh in realization. The backup flood buffer zone. Xiaopeng said it was a waste of prime land. He just had to build a VIP floating restaurant right in the middle of the buffer zone. Exactly. I traced the red line on the blueprints all the way down to where the pressure builds up. A 30-acre fish pond, producing tons of fish waste every single day, along with spoiled feed and fermented muck from the bottom. Without a buffer zone, Once the system is running at full capacity, the water pressure will easily blow the pipes right open. Back then, to make sure the project absolutely met safety codes, and to cover our own behinds so we wouldn't take the fall, I went ahead and installed something in the main return line. A mechanical pressure-assisted main backwash valve that perfectly meets national standards. The Joe stared at me, completely dazed. Bro Chung, what on earth is a backwash valve? I looked up, my eyes scanning every single brother in the room. For tomorrow's grand opening, they'll hopefully turn on that massive birds paying homage to the Phoenix fountain in the center of the resort to show off. That fountain pulls an insane amount of power. The second it's turned on, the water pressure in the underground pipes will instantly spike to its absolute peak. And at that exact moment, all we have to do is go to the pump house on the outer perimeter and manually turn that red backwash valve. The system will flag it as an instant pressure overload in the pipe network. To prevent the main lines from bursting, the valve will automatically reverse the flow to release the pressure. La Zhuang gasped, sucking in a breath of cold air. As a veteran plumber, he immediately put the pieces together. Think? His voice started to tremble. Reverse the flow. Then what about the stinking muck and fermented sewage that's been building up in the septic tank for the last 2 weeks? Won't it go right up the floor heating pipes in the main fountain line? And shoot all the way back up? I nodded, my gaze as sharp as a blade. Every single drain in the entire resort, every custom, high-end toilet, and even that $1 million showpiece fountain will turn into active volcanoes spewing vile, fishy black sludge within 3 minutes. The moment those words left my mouth, dead silence fell over the entire workshed. Then the room exploded into a wild, ecstatic roar. This is a devastating blow, 10,000 times worse than tearing their entire manor down. Dovu rubbed his hands together, trembling with excitement. But a second later, a hint of worry crossed his face.
Brother Chen, is this legal?
What if they call the cops on us for property damage? It's completely legal. First, the project is still under warranty. As the contractors, we're actually obligated to perform routine maintenance. Second, when they turn the fountains on full blast tomorrow, the water pressure is going to hit critical levels. Opening the backwash relief valve at that exact moment would be classified as an emergency safety measure. No one can find a single legal loophole to use against us. My brother's eyes lit up instantly. All that humiliation of being crushed under the boots of greedy elites. I grabbed the blue jumpsuit hanging on the wall, violently wiped the red wine stains off my hard hat, and slammed it back onto my head. That's you! Tomorrow at 10 in the morning, gather 5 of our brothers fully geared up and make sure everyone has their body cams on. Follow me to Shuiyong Manor for a routine safety inspection. Remember, we are professional infrastructure craftsmen. We're going to make Jia Peng realize that the dignity of working-class men like us is something he can never afford to step on. Let's do this! Let's go! More than a dozen rough, calloused hands stacked tightly on top of each other. The next day, at 11 in the morning, the sun was shining bright, and a gentle breeze swept through the air. Outside the Shuiyuaniko Manor, firecrackers were popping loud, and celebratory drums filled the sky. One Mercedes Maybach after another rolled into the massive parking lot of the manor. Desiru and I quietly drove our battered pickup truck to the back of the manor, parking right outside an inconspicuous pump room. Through the iron grates, we could clearly see everything happening inside the manor. Dressed in a custom haute couture suit, a glowing Zhao Peng stood proudly in front of a giant fountain sculpture of a phoenix surrounded by 100 birds. He was giving a booming speech into the microphone. Meanwhile, my hand was clenched tightly around my phone. On the screen was the final text message I had sent Zhao Peng 3 minutes ago. It was my last warning. Pay the $200,000 of life-saving money right now. I'll personally make sure your grand opening goes smoothly. The screen lights up. Zhang Klein replies with a voice message. I tap to play it. Zhao Peng's incredibly smug, arrogant voice blares through the speaker. Ling Chen, are you freaking delusional? I'm about to sign a $10 million investment contract, and you're still out there barking like a rabid dog. If you dare show your face in front of me today, I'll make sure you can't survive in this town anymore. As the voice message ends, Dujiu spits on the ground in disgust. Brother Chen, that bastard is beyond saving. He's got 1 foot in the grave, and he's still acting like a big shot. I slide my phone back into my pocket my face completely expressionless. I walk up to the giant, half-meter-tall red wheel valve in the center of the pump room. I pull a pair of heavy-duty work gloves onto my hands and tightly grip the freezing, cast iron wheel. An image of my mother lying helpless in the ICU, hovering between life and death, flashes in my mind, overlapping with Zhao Peng's sufferable, arrogant face. This moment, the burning rage in my chest hardens into cold, ruthless retribution. Through the loudspeaker in the distance, Zhao Peng's screeching, overly excited countdown echoes across the entire resort. Distinguished guests, please feast your eyes on the grandest water show in the entire county. This symbolizes the unstoppable, soaring growth of our new rural development. 3, 2, 1. Motivating. The deep, heavy rumble of dozens of high-powered water pumps starting up simultaneously echoes through the resort. At that exact moment, I lock my eyes on the water pressure gauge in the pump room as the red needle spikes instantly. With the veins in my arms bulging, I yank it violently to the left,
keeping that red main valve all the way shut.
Let the show begin. The entire floor of the pump room begins to violently shake. That is the terrifying roar of dozens of tons of water deep within the underground pipes, suddenly forced to reverse direction under immense pressure. Meanwhile, on the central plaza of the Water Cloud Resort, Zhao Peng raises his hands high, ready to bask in the amazed stares and deafening applause of all the investors. The $1,000,000 white marble fountain, carved as 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix, lets out a harsh, grinding screech. Standing in the front row, Sandahu frowns. Hey, Zhao, why does your fountain sound like a tractor starting up? Zhao Peng's heart skips a beat, but he forces a smile anyway. Mr. Sun, you see, we're using the latest high-pressure pumps imported from abroad. They're incredibly powerful. And as the saying goes, water brings wealth. The higher the water shoots up, the greater our future profits will. Before he can even finish the word greater, suddenly, the noise stopped dead in its tracks. Boom! A deafening blast, like a landmine detonating, ripped through the center of the plaza. There was no crystal-clear mountain spring, no breathtaking water show. Instead, a wave of nauseating, stomach-turning stench erupt like a furious black dragon, shattering the white marble statues in an instant and shooting over 10 meters into the sky. The entire crowd fell into a dead, suffocating silence. Everyone stared up in utter shock at the black geyser shooting into the clouds. Sun Qing let out an incredibly piercing, blood-curdling shriek. Her custom diamond-studded gown was instantly stained a filthy black-gray by the sludge, and her exquisite makeup was washed away by the foul-smelling slime, leaving her looking like a literal ghost. "Help me!" she shrieked. It reeks! What is this stuff? My face, my clothes. That scream seemed to trigger a chaotic switch. In an instant, the entire luxurious banquet turned into a living hell. My eyes, my eyes! Security, get me out of here! Those high and mighty business moguls and wealthy investors couldn't care less about their dignity or high status anymore. They threw away their designer bags worth tens of thousands of dollars, dropped their expensive wine glasses, and desperately shoved each other out of the way, fleeing across the white carpeted-over water walkway in sheer panic. But the nightmare was far from over. Because the pipeline pressure had completely reversed, the sewage backflow wasn't limited to just the outdoor fountains. It was traveling through the complex underground water lines, invading every single building in the manor. In the overwater VIP dining room, right over the freshly plated Australian lobsters and premium black caviar, black water was spewing from the floor heating access ports at a terrifying visible speed. Glug, glug, glug. Nearby, a bone-chilling sound echoed from the high-end, luxury restrooms. In just 3 minutes, the multi-million-dollar Water Cloud Manor, hailed as the county's most high-end modern rural ecological benchmark, turned into a giant, stinking septic tank. Sadawa was shielded tightly beneath 2 bodyguards. But even though they did their absolute best, the all-penetrating black spray still drenched the county's richest man like a drowned rat. And as luck would have it, a rotting dead fish scale smacked right onto his shiny, bald forehead. Sandahu wiped the black mud from his face, shaking with pure rage at the stench, which was foul enough to make anyone throw up their dinner. He nearly had a heart attack. Zhao, is this the bench part you wanted me to see? This is your prime feng shui spot? I've been in the construction business for half my life, and I've never been humiliated like this. Give me an explanation, right now. Zhao Peng was completely frozen. He stood there numbly in the muddy water, watching the investors scatter in pure panic, watching his luxurious gala completely ruined in an instant. His mind went completely blank, only when Sandahu's furious roar cut through the chaos. Did he finally snap out of it? Panicking, he scrambled to run over and explain, only to slip right onto the thick black sludge covering the floor. He skidded violently for 3 to 4 meters, sliding right to Sandahu's feet. Mothers, fun. Please,
Let me explain.
This is a total accident. I swear. Security. Where the hell is security?
Shut off the water main, now!
Close that damn valve. Shut it tight.
Hurry. Mr. Zhao, the pump room door is locked.
We can't open it. Zhao Peng's eyes widened in sheer shock. A text message he received on his phone just 5 minutes ago flashed through his mind. This is my final warning. I will personally make sure your grand opening goes smoothly. Ling.
Chen. It's Ling Chen.
It was the same Ling Chen whose face he had just splashed with red wine. Blinded by sheer rage, Zhao Peng's eyes turned bloodshot. He grabbed a metal bar stool left on the floor. And with 7 or 8 security guards trailing behind, he stumbled and waded through the mud-drenched plaza, heading straight for the pump house. On the outskirts, with a soft click, the heavy iron door of the pump house was pushed open calmly from the inside. There I stood, wearing my faded, dusty blue overalls, with a bright yellow hard hat on my head, holding a thick copy of the National Safety Regulations for Water Conservancy and Construction. I stepped out, completely expressionless. Right behind me, Daju and 5 of our brothers stood lined up shoulder to shoulder. Daju was holding up a high-definition inspection camera, its red recording light blinking steadily, capturing every detail of Zhao Peng looking like a pathetic, drowned rat. Seeing how calm and unbothered I was, standing there without a single scratch, and then looking down at his own custom designer suit, now a smelly, mud-soaked rag. Beat them to a pulp. I'll take the fall for whatever happens. Daju and the boys didn't take a single step back. They didn't even bother pulling out their wrenches for defense. I just stood my ground, staring him down coldly. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried absolute crushing authority and confidence. Zhao Peng, I suggest you tell your men to back off. Every single piece of equipment here is connected to the network. Every single byte of data and every second of video recorded here, just now, has already been uploaded in real time to the engineering headquarters cloud. You ruined my life's work. You destroyed my pipeline network. This is malicious destruction of private property. I'm calling the police, and I'll have you arrested. I'll make sure you rot in prison for the rest of your life. Call the police? Great. Go ahead. Do it right now. I casually flipped open the safety manual in my hands and shoved one of the pages right in his face. Call them. Let's have the police take a good look at this. Why is this microfiltration backwater system, which supports a 30 mu high-density breeding pond, completely missing the emergency flood buffer zone required by national standards? And who was the one who wanted to save $80,000 last month and illegally built an overwater restaurant right on top of that buffer zone? I told you to cancel it, so cancel it. Why are you talking so much crap? The signed contract amendment and the audio recordings. I have them right here, crystal clear. Zhao Peng's arrogance instantly faltered, a flash of panic flickering in his eyes. I didn't give him a single second to catch his breath. I closed in on him, step by step, my voice as sharp as a knife. Today, you turned on the ornamental fountain at full power, causing an instantaneous water pressure overload in the pipeline network, bringing it to the absolute brink of bursting. As the contractor, we performed a routine inspection during the warranty period, detected this danger, and to prevent the main pipeline from completely exploding and causing a catastrophic foundation collapse, we strictly followed building water supply and drainage design standards, and manually triggered the emergency pressure relief backwash. This is a fully legal and compliant emergency action. Not only did we not destroy your property, we actually saved the foundation of your illegal structure by the book. I pointed at the ruined, overflowing septic tank behind him, my lips curling into a mocking smirk. Too bad. Because you insisted on pinching pennies. The backwashed sludge had no buffer zone to drain into. It had no choice but to flood right back up the pipes. How does it taste, President Zhao? You set a trap for me from the very beginning. This is blackmail. Zhao Peng trembled with pure rage. His finger was shaking violently as he pointed it at me. You say I set a trap for you. I begged you over and over to pay me for my work. I even gave you one last chance just half an hour ago. But it was you. You're the one who chose to burn every last bridge, Zhao Peng. When you took my mom's life-saving money to gamble at the card tables, you should have known this day would come. Right at that moment, a chaotic rush of footsteps echoed from outside the bridal suite. Furious and covered in filth, Sandahu stormed in, surrounded by a crowd of wealthy bosses who looked just as pathetic and messy as him. Sandahu didn't care to listen to a single word of Zhao Peng's excuses. A man of his status only cared about results and his own reputation. Today's fiasco had turned him into the ultimate laughingstock of the entire county's business community. Zhao Peng, you still have the nerve to shift the blame? You can't even fix a simple sewer line. Yet you had the audacity to ask me for a $10 million investment. Did you really think I was some kind of fool? Sundata snatched the unsigned $10 million investment proposal from his bodyguard's hands and ripped it to shreds right in front of Zhao Peng's face. He threw the scraps hard right at his face, yelling, From this day on, the Sun family is pulling out every single penny. And that $3 million I lent you to buy luxury cars and build your fake persona? You have exactly 3 days to pay it back in full, with interest. Otherwise, don't blame me for showing no mercy. With that, Sun Dahu glared at his daughter, Sun Chan, who was trembling with fear nearby. Come with me. If you ever associate with this con artist again, I'll break your legs. At this moment, Sun Qian had lost all the pride of a wealthy young heiress. She threw a look of pure disgust at Zhao Peng, who was reeking of raw sewage, and quickly scrambled after Sun Dahu into the only Maybach that had escaped the mess. They sped away, leaving only a cloud of dust behind. The investor was gone. Wealthy bosses had scattered. The security guards, who had been acting so tough just moments ago, realized their boss was completely ruined, and they might not even get paid. They tossed their caps aside and quickly slipped away. Begev Zhao Peng standing all alone, surrounded by thick sludge and the shredded remains of his dream contract. Just 3 minutes ago, he was on the verge of securing a $10 million investment, marrying a wealthy heiress, and becoming a celebrated rural entrepreneur. But just 3 minutes later, he became a ruined, humiliated laughingstock, buried under millions in debt. I looked down at Zhao Peng, who was slumped on the ground like a pile of useless mud, and turned to wave my hand at Dashu and the guys. Turn off the cameras. The show is over. Let's pack up and go home, boys. Rumble. The underground drainage network of the Shuyonjian Manor kept roaring. Although the water pressure was slowly starting to balance out, and the dirty geysers weren't shooting as high anymore, Sun Dahu's fleet of Maybachs had already vanished past the end of the country road. It stripped away all of Zhao Peng's ambition and hope, leaving nothing but a total disaster across the massive central square. Crushed wine glasses, expensive lobsters covered in black mud, torn flowers, and shredded decorations. Every single piece of trash seemed to mock this utterly absurd grand opening.
Zhao Peng knelt all alone in the thick, filthy mud.
His expensive custom white tuxedo had turned into stinking black rags. His eyes were completely hollow as he hysterically mumbled to himself, "It's over. It's all over. My 10 million yuan investment. My manor." But the brutal business world never shows a single second of mercy for a loser's tears. Just as the news of Sun Dahu withdrawing his investment spread like wildfire through the WeChat groups of the fleeing bosses, a physical reckoning descended upon Zhao Peng with terrifying speed. Several heavy trucks and vans slammed on their brakes, parking haphazardly right at the manor's brass gates. The doors were kicked open with a loud bang, and over a dozen thuggish-looking men rushed in aggressively. Leading them were Boss Liu, the town's biggest building material supplier, and Boss Wang, who was in charge of the manor's luxury landscaping. They were originally waiting outside to set off the celebratory fireworks, but instead, they got the news of the manor turning into a literal cesspool and the explosive news that the richest man had angrily pulled his funding. Boss Liu trudged through the filthy mud, rushing straight up to Zhao Peng. He grabbed Zhao Peng by his mud-covered collar and barked, "Stop playing dead. Sun Dahu has pulled his funding. Your precious manor is completely ruined. 800,000 yuan for the marble and luxury floor tiles you bought from me last month.
You're spitting every single cent of it back to me today.
Boss Wang rushed forward as well, shouting in a blind rage. And what about my 500,000 yuan landscaping balance? Didn't you promise you'd pay me as soon as you opened today? Now even your investor has run off. How are you going to pay me back?
With this stinking pond mud all over the ground?
Zhao Peng trembled violently, utterly terrified by this sudden onslaught of angry creditors. He looked desperately at these suppliers, who just yesterday were constantly flattering him, kissing up to him, and calling him Mr. Zhao. Now, they had all turned into hungry wolves. Brother Liu. Brother Wan. Please, just give me a few more days. I'll go borrow the money.
I mortgaged the manor.
I promise I'll pay you back. The mortgage? Do you take us for fools?
You leased this land from the village.
And now, this entire building is flooded with stinking sludge from the fish pond. The foundation is completely ruined. The whole place stinks to high heaven. Who in their right mind would want this piece of garbage? Boss Liu wasn't buying a single word of his lies. His eyes scanned Zhao Peng like sharp needles. Then, his gaze locked onto the Porsche parked just a short distance away.
That was the luxury car Zhao Peng had taken out a loan of over 1 million yuan to buy, just to put on a show.
Boss Liu slammed Zhao Peng to the ground and waved fiercely to his men. You owe money? You pay it back. That's the way of the world. Since you don't have the cash, we'll take your stuff instead. Go search his pockets and get the keys to that Porsche. Drive it out of here. And those expensive mahogany sofas in the lobby that aren't ruined by the mud yet? And all the unopened imported liquor. Load them all up. Don't leave him a single damn thing. More than a dozen men rushed forward, pinning Zhao Peng down and ripping the car keys from his pocket. Right after that, his suppliers arrived at his doorstep to recover their own losses. They threw all politeness out the window. The Macanity furniture was carried away. The expensive decorations were cleaned out, and even the famous calligraphy and paintings on the walls were ripped down and stuffed into their vans. Zhao Peng watched helplessly As Boss Liu slammed on the gas and drove his Porsche away, he watched as the luxurious lifestyle he had painstakingly built was stripped away piece by piece. Face down in the muddy water, he screamed in utter despair, but he was completely powerless. In less than half an hour, this pack of debt collectors, like a swarm of locusts, stripped the estate clean of every single valuable thing that wasn't nailed down.
They swaggered off, leaving the massive Shiwenjen estate as nothing but a foul-smelling empty shell. Jiapeng lay slumped on the ground like a puddle of mud. Suddenly, he felt a freezing chill on his thigh.
Looking down, he saw that the black, muddy sewage water hadn't gone down at all. Instead, due to the continuous back pressure from the main pipe, it had already spilled over the courtyard steps and was creeping closer and closer to his feet.
At this rate of backflow, main valve wasn't shut off.
In less than 3 hours,
All the sludge from the 30-moo fish pond would completely flood the ground floor of the estate.
turning his multi-million wine renovation into a total pile of ruins. Not a single penny of its resale or renovation value would be left. He shuddered violently. In this moment of absolute despair, a single name flashed through his mind. The only person who could save this house. Lin Chen, the country bumpkin he had so thoroughly despised. Like a drowning man clawing at his last lifeline,
Jiapeng scrambled and thrashed his way out of the mud.
running like a madman toward the pump house on the edge of the estate. Todd! Jiapeng threw himself in front of the pump house door, his knees buckling as he fell heavily onto his knees on the hard concrete steps. Inside the pump house, I was leisurely rolling up the blueprints and packing them into my toolbox. Daju and the other guys were carefully wiping down the construction gear with their rags, as if the absolute chaos unfolding outside had absolutely nothing to do with us. Hearing a noise, I paused what I was doing, looking down coldly at Jiapeng, who was kneeling just outside the door. Brother Chen, please.
I was wrong. I was so wrong. I beg you, please, shut off the valve.
If you keep letting it flood like this, the entire foundation will be completely ruined. Even if I have to sell my own blood, I still won't be able to pay back my suppliers. Seeing him in such a pathetic state,
Daju let out a cold sneer.
well, look who it is. Isn't this our big boss Zhao? The man who cares so much about business vision. What happened? Not splashing expensive red wine on us anymore? Does this fish manure taste even better than your precious Lafitte?
Brother Chen, please, be the bigger man.
I beg you, switch the water line back.
As long as you save this house.
I will be your slave for the rest of my life.
I stared at him, blankly, without a shred of pity in my eyes.
Only cold, strictly business-like detachment. I pulled the blank maintenance order form from my toolkit, popped the pen cap off with my teeth, and scribbled a few lines in a fierce, sweeping hand. Then, with a sharp slap, I slammed the slip down onto the concrete counter at the pump house entrance.
Jiapeng, I told you.
We are professional infrastructure craftsmen. We only talk business, not personal feelings. Since you want me to shut off the pressure release valve and restart the water pressure balance test on the pipe network, this falls under a major emergency repair project, adding the 200,000 yuan you still owe me for the past project,
Plus a 100,000 yuan emergency repair technical service fee for this job.
that brings the total to 300,000 yuan. There is absolutely no room for negotiation. Once the money hits my account, I turn the valve.
300,000?
Jiapeng snapped his head up, his face a mask of pure disbelief. My car was already taken by Boss Liu, and my suppliers just forcefully froze the last of my liquid funds from my account. Where on earth am I going to get 300,000? Please, just give me a few more days. Give you a few more days? I took a step forward. Muddy water splashes as heavy footsteps stomp right through it. I stare at his terrified face. You don't have any money, do you? Where's that fake Rolex you wore to show off? Where are all those credit limits on your phone apps now? If you don't pay up, I'm taking my boys and leaving right now, and you can stay right here and rot away with your precious estate. Right on cue. Daju lifts his heavy toolbox with a grim look. Stop wasting your breath on him. Your mod is still waiting at the hospital. We can't delay this. This dump reeks. Let's get out of here. Come on, let's get back to the hospital. Jiapeng watches our determined backs as we walk away. He looks back at his luxury estate being swallowed by black sludge, and his mental defense line completely collapses. He knows this is his absolute last chance to salvage what's left of his assets. Wait, don't go.
I'll pay. I'll pay you right now.
I pull out my phone. My phone chimes, confirming the transfer of 240,000 yuan. I look down at my screen, then look up at the mud-stained luxury watch in Daju's hand. This money is more than enough to cover my mother's surgery. And there's plenty left over for her recovery. But more importantly, this is the dignity of working-class men, reclaimed with our own hands and expertise. I take a deep breath and hand the service contract to Jiapeng to sign. Jiapeng doesn't even bother reading the terms. He just presses his bright red thumbprint onto the paper. I turn and walk straight into the pump room. I grip the red backwash valve with both hands and slowly turn it clockwise to shut it off. The heavy rumbling of the underground pipes slowly dies down. The backflow pressure is finally released. The sewers and fountains that were spewing black sludge finally, reluctantly, stop erupting, leaving behind a devastating, filthy mess. A silent testament to the absolute destruction they just brought upon themselves. I lock the heavy iron door of the pump room and toss the keys straight into a puddle of mud. The pipes are back to normal. But as for cleaning up all this toxic sludge, that's your problem.
You wanted to step on working class people to fund your luxury lifestyle, Xiaopeng.
This is your price. You brought this on yourself. I don't give him another glance. I turn my back on him, leading Daju and the rest of the crew. As we climb back into our battered old pickup truck, the engine roars to life. In the rearview mirror, I watch Zhao Prong bury his face in his hands, collapsing to his knees in the middle of his stinking, ruined estate. I tried to build his high and mighty vanity on our blood and sweat. Settle your own damn bills. That was the last shred of dignity I left him. 3 months later, in the painting department of the County People's Hospital, I fed the last spoonful of warm porridge to my mother. Watching some color finally return to her once pale face, I instinctively rubbed my calloused hands on my overalls. My back, which had been as tense as a fully drawn bow for days, finally relaxed completely. To 240,000 yuan I got back from Xiaopeng. That only covered the remaining cost of her bypass surgery. It also allowed the doctor to use the best imported stents and post-op recovery medication. Chinny, Mom practically cheated death this time. But it's been so hard on you. Clear away at the construction site every single day. Lean back against the hospital bed. My mother gently stroked my rough hands, her eyes filled with deep heartache. I squeezed her hand back and smiled. Mom, just focus on getting better. Don't worry about the money. Your son not only has steady work now, but I'm also preparing to become my own boss. After getting my mother settled, I changed into my faded blue overalls and walked out of the hospital gates. Daju was driving, and his beat-up pickup truck was already waiting for me at the entrance. The truck bed was packed with shovels, hoses, and a few brand-new aeration machines. Brother Chen. How is Auntie looking today? Much better. She'll be discharged next week. Let's go. Back to Shuinjian. The pickup truck roared to life and drove off, heading along the bumpy, unpaved country road toward the outskirts of town. 3 months ago, that place was the most prestigious and luxurious eco-manor in the entire county. Shiwenjian. But now, as I stood once again before that battered, deformed brass gate, the sight was truly pitiful. The central plaza, once paved with imported marble, was now covered in a thick, blackened crust of dried mud. The glass of the overwater corridor was completely shattered, and the high-end mahogany furniture had long been stripped bare by debt collectors. Even the plaster on the walls had been violently scraped off in several places. The 30-acre high-density koi pond had been neglected for so long that a layer of dead green algae floated on the surface, emitting a sickening, rotten stench. As for Xiaopeng, the villager said he sold off all his assets, but still couldn't plug that multi-million-dollar hole. Hounded by debt collectors to the point of desperation, he fled in the middle of the night, and his whereabouts remain unknown to this day. Because this mess was originally built on collective wasteland rented from several local families. Now that Xiaopeng is run off, the land naturally went back to its original owner, Seventh Uncle, the most respected major contractor in the village. Right now, Seventh Uncle was squatting by the dried-up fountain pool, so worried that his face was squeezed into a tight knot of wrinkles. Standing right next to him was a middle-aged man wearing a thick gold chain. That was Boss Chen, a seafood hustler from the neighboring town. Seventh Uncle, it is not that I am trying to disrespect you, but look at this 30-acre mud pit yourself. After that last sludge backflow, the foundation and the pond water are completely choked up with fish waste. This thick layer of black sludge will cost over 100,000 yuan just to clean up, for me to offer 20,000 yuan a year for the lease. It's basically me pinching my nose and doing charity for you. Nonsense. When Xiaopeng rented this place, it was 100,000 yuan a year. Even if the building is ruined, now, these 30 acres of ponds are still fully intact. 20,000? You are trying to rob me blind. 100,000? Seventh Uncle, do you still think this is some kind of gold mine? The ammonia, nitrogen, and nitrate levels in this mud are off the charts. If you don't sign this 20,000 yuan contract today, this land is going to rot in your hands forever. You can spend every single year sniffing the stench. Boss Xing was banking on the fact that Seventh Uncle knew nothing about bottom drainage technology. Certain that nobody else would touch this mess, he acted incredibly smug, shoving the dirt-shaped contract right into Seventh Uncle's chest. Who says everything raised on this land is bound to die? I took a sudden step up the stone stairs, my leather shoes crunching sharply as they crushed the hard, dry crust of black mud.
Boss Chen spun around,
Looking me up and down in my blue overalls, disdain flashing in his eyes. Well, where did this dirty peasant pop out from? Who gave you the right to speak here? But the moment Seventh Uncle saw me, A glimmer of hope lit up in his cloudy eyes. The crisis of the mudslide 3 months ago, although the villagers hadn't witnessed it with their own eyes, word of it had already spread everywhere. The 7th uncle knew I was a force to be reckoned with, someone with real talent. Ignoring Boss Chen's shouting, I walked straight to the edge of the blackened pond, picked up a tree branch from the ground, and stabbed it hard through the crust of dried mud. I dug out a small piece of the pitch-black wet mud from underneath, brought it to my nose, and took a sniff. Then, with a cold laugh, I flicked the mud right onto Boss Chan's expensive leather shoes. You must be Boss Chen, right? Taking advantage of an old man who doesn't know the business? That is just downright shameless. You claim this mud is full of toxins. The sediment at the bottom of this 30-mu fish pond is actually formed by high-density fish waste and fermented spoiled bait. This sediment is a vital part of the pond's ecosystem.
Maskin, the issue with his pond isn't as simple as you make it out to be.
To someone who doesn't know any better, it might look like stinking poison. But if we use EM bacteria for biological sun-drying and degradation, this becomes an extremely rich source of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, the finest organic fertilizer money can't buy. Stop throwing around fancy words with me. So what if it's fertilizer? The pipes underneath have been clogged for ages. The water is completely stagnant. How are you going to clean it? Just the cost of hiring an excavator to dig up the mud would bankrupt a loser like you. Dig up the mud? Haha, sorry to disappoint you. But the pipe network down there? Every single inch of it was laid by me and my team. 3 months ago, I could make it backflow. To today, I can make it drain completely on its own.
Uncle 7.
I, Lin Chen, will take over this land. The house is ruined, but I don't care about that.
But the 3-mu pond and the underground pipe network are still in good shape. I'll pay 80,000 yuan a year for the lease. We'll sign for 10 years. As for all this black mud, not only will I not charge you a single penny for cleanup, but I'll also turn it into a gold mine. If you trust me, we can sign the contract right now.
80,000? Are you insane? Can a lowly contractor like you even scrape up 80,000 yuan in cash?
I threw him a cold glance. Daju, perfectly in sync with me, pulled a heavy black canvas bag from the passenger seat of the pickup truck. He unzipped it, revealing 80,000 yuan in cash, neatly stacked inside.
That was the startup capital I had set aside to help my brothers and me make our comeback.
Paid in full, with 0 delay.
Boss Chen, you better keep your 20,000 yen handout to buy some medicine for your bad breath. Daju snapped back, defending Lin Chen.
Uncle 7 trusts your integrity as a craftsman. I'll sign this contract with you. Your name is Lin Chen, right? Fine. I'd love to see how a dirt-poor peasant like you is going to spin this smelly cesspool into gold. When you lose everything down to your underwear, don't come crawling back on your knees begging me to clean up your mess. With that, he furiously kicked a clump of black mud on the ground. Cursing under his breath, he scrambled into his Toyota Prado and slunk out of the estate in total disgrace. As I watched Boss Chan's exhaust fumes fade away, I turned around to face the 30 mu of lifeless, stagnant mud ponds. I took a deep breath of the pungent air. Kaju and over a dozen of our brothers jumped down from the pickup truck, carrying shovels and heavy equipment on their shoulders. Their eyes were filled with an excitement they could barely hold back.
Brother Chen, we got the land.
What's our first move?
I put on a bright yellow hard hat,
Pointed at the main control pump room of the underground pipe network, and said with an unprecedented power and raw ambition, our very first step
is to reroute the water and purge the toxic silt. Daju, take some guys and rip out the main backwash valve in the pump room.
replace it with a large diameter, direct discharge sewage valve.
Oljang, tuck a few brothers to the agricultural supply station in town.
And load up 100 barrels of high-concentration apiculture E bacteria. We're not using excavators. Instead, we're using microbial degradation to give these 30 mu of ponds a complete, bone-deep purification. These 30 mu of stagnant mud might look like a wasteland to others, but in the hands of us builders, this is the true starting line for our new rural ecological infrastructure. Let's get to work. Move it! The brothers erupted into a deafening roar. The sound of shovels striking the earth and the metallic clatter of water pumps being repaired echoed once again across this wasteland that had been silent for 3 months. We won't rely on speculation, nor will we rely on cheating or swindling.
We, the boys from the mud, are going to use real, hardcore technology to grow our own gold, right out of this dirt.